already at our final video and the last set of sources. What did you think of our learning about wisdom and aging? The sources seem to be a bit at war with themselves. On the one hand, we learn more easily when we're young, but on the other, it's better to learn from the elderly. On the one hand, we respect the wisdom that comes with age, but on the other, Rebbe's son rejects his father's late teaching, preferring the ideas that came when he was still strong. Which side of this internal tension resonated more for you? Do you think of old age as a time of wisdom or a time of declining mental abilities? As we move into the final set of sources, I've been thinking a lot about what is becoming an iconic moment from the 2024 Grammys. Joni Mitchell, at the age of 81, and less than a decade removed from a serious brain aneurysm, performed her song, Both Sides Now, which she wrote when she was in her 20s. Surrounded by a choir of performers, legendary in their own right, but 2 generations younger. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend finding it online. It's a gorgeous, moving performance, unlike anything else I've ever seen. I watched it after many friends and family members told me about it, but I have to admit, my first reaction was not one of awe. Mitchell's voice is thin, at times wavering, and for a note or two, I was nervous and uncomfortable. But that awkward discomfort quickly transformed into appreciation for a beauty I couldn't have imagined before. I quickly came to realize that this might be one of the most gorgeous folk performances I've ever heard. Some of the beauty comes from the clear reverence the other performers have for her. Singing with her, but obviously looking up to her as an elder in their world, you can feel the sense of gratitude they all have to be on stage with her, learning from her even as they support her song. But there's more to the beauty of this episode than simply the joy and gratefulness of her collaborators. Mitchell's voice itself, which I initially mistook for having deteriorated through age, is in fact a deeper beauty than I could have imagined. There's a depth to her singing, a wisdom to her phrasing, and a life of learning packed into the love with which she imbues every word of the song. This is, in and of itself, beauty. Our final set of sources dig into the idea of aging as its own kind of blessing. Not simply the blessing of longevity, but the blessing of aging itself. And as with Joni Mitchell's Grammys performance, we'll see sources that view that blessing both from the angle of reverence and from the perspective of the beauty of old age itself. In a midrash that I've loved for years, Avraham asks God to give him the gift of zikna, not simply long years, which he'd already merited, but specifically that old age should come with the marks of aging. This, for Avraham, is essential in order for people to relate to him properly, like the reverence that Mitchell's co-performers show her on stage. We'll also study a passage from Rav Aviva Richman, one of our Rosh Yeshiva here at Hadar, challenging the notion that old age is a time of decreasing beauty. Digging into a complicated passage from Tractate Sukkah, Rav Aviva asks, what would it mean to view the wrinkles, the graying, the marks of a long life, not as the cost of growing old, but as a sign of beauty in their own right? It's hard to believe we've come to the end of our learning together. By the time you finish the final source sheet, you'll have seen some pessimistic attitudes toward aging, but also ideas that view old age as a time of great wisdom, respect, and most surprisingly, but therefore most importantly, a time of increased beauty. We live in a culture that tends to emphasize the negative aspects of aging, and that's real. Whether you're going through this stage of life yourself, or you've watched and cared for loved ones experiencing it, there are real challenges and hardships. And we don't do ourselves any favors trying to deny that. But we also do ourselves a disservice if we ignore the blessings of aging. Rabbinic literature, as it tends to do, directs our attention to both poles, the beautiful and the ugly, the blessed and the difficult. I hope these sources have gotten you thinking about aging in new ways, and I look forward to learning together in the future.